insecurities had not occurred to these students, or, if they had not been understood as issues of politics or international relations. By the end of my lecture, the students' notebooks were filled with a cascade of insecurities, most of which were accompanied by structural analyses, none of which singled out a political leader to prosecute, hold responsible. That was my first lecture. And, as is probably the case in the classrooms, community groups, citizens' forums, and planning meetings you have attended or led that concern gender, human rights, education, peace, environmental disaster, development, climate change, racial injustice, refugees, treatment of marginalized groups, economic inequality, and every other manner of injustice, the first question was, what should we do? This book is about how to answer that question. When confronted with the global dimensions of the injustices that many people experience every day, how should we respond? In one sense, those of us who read and write books about justice and responsibility answer this question every day when we buy the local homeless street newspaper, decide where to buy our clothes, support endangered species by buying their stuffed animal lookalikes, remember our reusable bags as we enter a store, and click here on an email request to donate to a cause against injustice, to sign a petition, to send a letter to a corporation about labor rights, or to a corporation about corporate social responsibility. In the face of the global dimensions of the injustices related to poverty, environmental change, gender, and labor, can these individual acts have an effect on these global problems and the seemingly intractable social, political, and economic structures that perpetuate and exacerbate them? Can any? If structures have such an impact on everyday injustices, is there any room for individual human agency and responsibility for issues related to global justice? Are these the right questions? Particularly, are these the right questions for those who read and write about questions of justice and responsibility? People who struggle to live and work because of injustice, and those who work on behalf of and with people in such struggles, ask different questions, but the import of their questions is similar. What should we do? Should we focus on a material issue, such as education or health, for which political and financial support is available locally and globally? Or should we focus on political issues that address injustice by changing the power dynamics, such as advocacy for the right to organize? If we take a political approach, how should we work? Should we try to transform the formal institutions of government or informal social norms around gender and caste? Should we work to improve individual lives or to transform collective politics? Should we work to transform local institutions or global ones? Recognizing the immense scale and scope of change necessary, can we work in partnership? With whom can we build alliances? With whom should we build alliances, given that we may be in agreement about some transformations but not others? What can we learn from past and present struggles to help us answer these questions? Asking the question, what should we do, is a thoughtful and empathetic response to learning about a garment factory collapse or a food crisis and the overwhelming ways in which these crises and survival in their aftermath are linked to historical and global processes that have previously been outside the scope of consideration of certain theorists of justice. It is, of course, a hard question for the student, her younger siblings, and her parents as they become more reflective of their place in the global political economy. It is also a hard question for her professors, conscientious consumers, philanthropists, advocates and policymakers, and political